Hey guys, Vern's here, back again with another Supercoach video. This time it is the NBL Round 4 review. What a weekend. Look, I personally went down to Ballarat and watched Illy, which was pretty sick, and I was really loving my weekend. And then Supercoach sort of happened, and look, 41 places hurts. Season rank of 54 isn't really the end of the world, but yeah, just a few things really didn't go our way this week, and it just felt so painful to get a round rank of 3,200. Like that, just I knew it was going to be a good week for us, and even in my head, technically changing, what technically if I brought in PJC because he was apparently the pick of the fucking week, like Jesus Christ. It doesn't change my score because he scored the same as Cummings. So I'd still end up in this position, but I would be set up so well for the future. And doing it the other way around has really just ruined me. So look, we will jump into it real quick. I don't know why I just clicked BBL. That was silly of me. Let's click Classic. And look, this is obviously a team. This is how we went. The 287 as a round score. Oh man, it just didn't feel good. Like, as you can see, I don't think we had the wrong idea, and I mentioned this in a previous video where sometimes you just take the information that you have and you make the best decision with that information, and sometimes it doesn't play out the way you expect it to play out. Now PJC, he's going into Melbourne. Yes, Delhi is out. So that's a big defensive guard that's out of it. But New Zealand, they played against against Utah on Tuesday, then flew back. So they'd only really been back in the country a few days, and then they had to get together and get down and play a game today. And I just thought PJC coming into the best team in the league, a team that's based on defense. They're coming back from America where they didn't have. It wasn't a. New Zealand showed more than Cairns did, but it wasn't a good showing, and it's probably not very good for the mental, I thought their mental's not going to be in a good place. They're only just getting off the plane, probably whatever it is, Thursday, Friday, whenever it was. It's not long before the game, and they just got to turn around and switch it on for Sunday, and I'm like, look, there's a good chance that he just doesn't get it together. As I said, I would be surprised if he goes higher than 30, and if he's not going higher than 30, then, yeah, at the end of the day, we're going to lose money if we don't jump on him, sort of thing. But I thought Cummings going 60 plus, 35 points different, it's going to be well and truly worth it. Obviously, it doesn't work out that way. He goes bananas in the game. He even gets fouled off, PJC does, and still puts together 45 points in a single game and just becomes the most must-have player in Supercoach. If he wasn't already a big must-have last week, like he was definitely a big pick last week. I don't think he was a must-have because I thought that we could have made points elsewhere on the table. But hindsight's 2020. You told me he's going to come in and drop 45 points this week, 100% guaranteed. Like, then obviously he's a must-have. But yeah, as I said, what just really hurts too is Creek and Cummings just not coming to the table. We get a pretty poor captain score. Cummings loses 16k, Creek loses 16k. The biggest problem here was Cummings loses 16 and PJC gains 60. So it's like basically a 75k turnaround play, and that's the biggest damage that's done. As I said, at the end of the day, the points technically would have been the same, but to lose 75k, like that's going to help a lot, like that would have helped a lot in like the future team progression and just getting to a position where you just have a better stacked team by the end of it, and you're running like your bench players are basically premiums. Like it's just so painful that ends up happening. And even worse, just because of the way things turned out, I really just like we're just in a position where it feels like we've got to trade a lot of people, and having PJC would have meant that that's one trade that we wouldn't have had to worry about. So that just really hurt. And I think for Creek and Cummings obviously, somebody said he got a corky, but I swear watching the replay, I saw him roll his ankle. Like, I thought he rolled his ankle, and that's why he went off. But then South Melbourne, in their two games, once again, I'm just going to jump to this real quickly and just talk about it nice and quick. They pump Adelaide, and Cummings and Creek play plenty of court time, and they get good scores, and I'm sitting there like, awesome. I was actually really scared originally because Brown had like 20 points in that first quarter, and I was like, damn, that's scary. Williams ended up being insane and someone that everyone's going to be thinking about round 6. Like, we need this guy in our team. And I'm personally looking at him like, bro, I don't have the money anymore. Like, I've thrown away 75K and I just don't have the money for it. And it just really hurt. Really hurts. But then the other thing with South Melbourne is they end up winning this Adelaide game, blowing it out, great, awesome. But they completely ruffle stomp Brisbane, and I didn't see that coming. And because of it, Cummings, as I said, he rolls his ankle. I'm pretty sure he rolled his ankle. He ends up going off before the half. He ends up with only like 16 minutes of game time. And even Creek, like, they both get put on ice in the last quarter. Like, last quarter, you don't see any of these main Melbourne, like South Melbourne guys on the court. And because of that, that completely stunts their Supercoach growth. Like, they already weren't having great numbers as it was, but then to not play basically the entire of the fourth, it's like now naturally, like, they can't recover sort of thing. So we just end up in this awful situation where they end up having low minutes because they won their games hard, and then low Supercoach scores. And look, I look at the positives that coming. Yeah, he outperformed Brown, but because of the break even, like, you make a little bit of money there. Look, I don't know. I think that's still a positive there, but it just really hurt. Like, I talked about last week, Cummings being the guy that's going to get you the points this week. Brown going to be that sweet middle spot that gets you, money/points. And then PJC going to be the guy that's there for money. Nope, I was completely wrong. PJC was the guy that's going to be there for money and points. And the other two are going to be irrelevant. So it's just so painful. And I probably need to stop talking about that. But there's not much more I can say. Like, that just hurts so much not making that play. Like, that feels like a season-losing play falling behind the 8 ball on this. And you'll see why when I go through my trades as well, sort of thing, because as I said, if I wasn't behind that 8 ball, we could be moving a lot better, because we're at a point now where Hook Porty ends up in this situation where he was amazing in his first game. Joe Luell Jr. ended up being pretty good in the second game, and because of that, Hook Porty didn't really play too much. He only got like 15 points in the second game, Supercoach wise, that is. And you're like, oh no, is that going to be the worrying sign moving forward? Also, that 15 points is going to be relevant to his cash gen for next week. So he's in this position where he's probably done his cash gen. Let's just click on premium real quick. 25 break even. God, that could be him done, because I don't know if he's going to be able to get there with now Luell Jr. being back in the team. Like, preferably, you'd like to be moving on him this week if you could. So we would love to be moving Creek. We'd love to be moving Hook Porty. We'd love to be moving Cummings because of Galloway getting injured as well. And I'm assuming the way he looked, he's probably not playing next week. Like, he was slung up with his arm, ice pack, all that. So Galloway has to get moved on. McDaniel drops a 6. I get it, Brisbane weren't good, but like, He's now in a situation where it just feels like he has to go, because if he's not, he's just going to be bleeding money from here, and the entire reason of having him is basically lost. He had his good early run, he made us some money, and then we needed to get him on quickly. And I thought, hey, maybe he can hold down the fort for one game and then come back for 2 doubles and be fine on the bench. It doesn't look like that's the case, because he just didn't look good. And as I said, Brisbane didn't look good in general, so it's hard to blame. But also Bannon being back, I think that's also eating into McDaniel's time on the court and what he does. And it just feels like he needs to go as well. And all of a sudden, Henshaw doesn't play either, doesn't get any court time, which is almost better because he didn't come on for like 30 seconds and just lose money. But there's like 6 players there that just like need to go from my team. Like, they need to go right now. And we got 3 trades, and that's where if we were on PJC this week, only 5 players would need to go. And it would be something that we can sort of work with. I think something that we'd be able to manage. But having 6, it's a lot harder to work with this week. And anyone that's just on PJC, like, it's just you just get that huge step up. And we'll talk about it when we talk through trades, like why it's so invaluable. It's insane. But yeah, that was the Melbourne boys. South Melbourne boys. The Melbourne boys themselves. Travers, Hook Porty came out, did pretty well. Hook Porty drops 44 in the first game. Looks amazing. I'm thinking, dude, you don't even need Luell Jr. Just ease him back in. It's fine. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, second game, they play him a lot more, and then it eats into Hook Porty Supercoach scoring, and it's like, man, I thought he was playing good in that game too, and he still just wasn't getting it. I don't know if maybe he was in foul trouble or something. I didn't check that, but I was surprised that he didn't play as much as he did, because it felt like a close game, that Melbourne-New Zealand game, where it's like, no offense, it feels like when Hook Porty's on the field, you guys are a better team. Like, why is he not on the field at the end of this game when you want to win, sort of thing? And it's just, It's not good for the future, and we're gonna just have to keep him this week and hope he doesn't lose too much money. But then it hurts upgrade plans going forward if he loses money, and just super annoying. Trevor's perfectly fine first game. He was a little bit slow to get off the mark, but then got it all together by the end. And then the second game, that first half, he was insane, and he just had a great game overall. And I mean, he only put down, I think, 27 Supercoach points. He had, like, I think 4 turnovers technically. But nah, he was really good. And I think that's the other painful thing about this Melbourne game here too, is it's like people that went on Illy and Ian Clark. Like, I mentioned Ian Clark, and I said Ian Clark's great if you guys want him. If you guys could go for it, sort of thing. He would have been a much better pick than Will Cummings was at the end of the day. And to a degree, that's not out of Will Cummings. Like, that's kind of out of Will Cummings' control, because his team won so hard and he took a bit of an injury that it was like, hey, just jump on ice, take the fourth quarter off, you're fine, sort of thing. Ian Clark, I mean, even if Will Cummings plays that final quarter, I don't know if it's a big deal anyway, because just at the end of the day, he was probably not going to score too many more points. He still loses money. I don't know. People that jumped on Illy and Clark, just once again a huge step up for them. And I don't know, I just didn't see, as bad as it sounds, I didn't see the Illy thing coming, because I didn't really rate Illy as a player. For what I'd seen from him so far, he just really didn't tickle my fancy. Like, I was like, nah, Illy just ain't the guy, bro. I was pretty fine with Clark jumping in, like that was fine by me, and they both showed up this week, and I was like, damn, like either of them was actually a much better pick than the South Melbourne boys. And as I said, to a degree, it's not entirely their fault that they got iced because they just stomped so hard. But yeah, people that got on them, they get cash gen, and they just get them for the next double next week as well. So they're not people they have to trade. Like, me bringing in Cummings means Cummings has to go straight out, sort of thing. And I think hindsight's 2020. If you do think about that a bit more, it's like, actually, if I bring in Illy, technically, even if he doesn't score as much, or he's going to probably make money on his break even that he was, and then he has the double on the follow-up week. So if I don't want to trade him, I don't have to trade him, sort of thing. And I think that's the big difference here, because I'm just in this position where so many players feel like they have to go, and if I could have just like benched Cummings this week and chilled out about it, that would be so much better. And even if I do bench him this week, it's just not as good as if it was an Illy. So it's just so painful. Yeah, Illawarra boys, I mean, dude, Robinson just ain't the guy. Really unfortunate for the people that got on him. Clark ends up being the guy. He ends up being insane for them, and just nuts, which is crazy. As I said, Brisbane no real standouts there, but Bannon only ends up with the 6, so he's not really a must bring in because of that. I do think he's going to perform above that, and I'd expect him to honestly come out, have a good double here, and then earn a little bit of money. But it gets stunted a bit because of that 6. I would much prefer if he comes out and if he doesn't do that to me, because I just don't know if I'm going to be able to get on him, and it's my own bad there, but it's just one of those things that I might be able to get him on the double on the following week if he hasn't gone up too much. I've just really put myself in an awkward position here, and as I said, I didn't weigh up the repercussions of, like, what happens if PJC goes ballistic. What happens if PJC goes ballistic and Cummings doesn't fire? Like, do things go wrong? And what happens if some guy that I plan on keeping on the bench, like a Galloway or a McDonald, just end up getting injured or something, and then they end up being a must trade, and people that I wanted to hold for longer end up being trades that I got forced into? I guess maybe that's overthinking it if I thought that, but hindsight's a wonderful thing. I wish I thought along those lines, unfortunately. Adelaide and Perth, just to talk about quickly, these Adelaide boys weren't too bad either, and Adelaide end up beating Perth, and just Perth looks so bad. Like, they generally look terrible, and I can't believe that. Like, Adelaide don't look good, and they somehow beat them, and it just doesn't look good. Bryce doesn't look good. I don't know. Pinder comes out this game, drops 50 as well in a single, and everyone got to sit there and be like, damn, that man got a double coming in week 6. Like, is he the guy? And then he's got a double in round 8. Technically, everyone has a single in round 7. So if you have a double in 6 and 8, it's basically 2 double-doubles in a row. So, I mean, is Pinder the guy at that point? Saying that if you don't get on him now, he's got a single where he's about to probably make a lot of cash if he has a decent game again, and then he's going to get really hard to get for people. So it's very annoying at the moment because, yeah, just really put myself in a position where that's going to be very hard to get on. And for those that do, if it ends up being the play anyway, he maybe just doesn't put that out in those games over that stretch. But right now, he's just been insane. New Zealand, nobody really stood out in this game outside of PJC. Cheatham did. Cheatham, who was meant to be losing money because he had 2 really bad opening games, ends up coming out with an amazing game 3 and makes money, and now he's a great break even, and if you can get on him, great, get on him. It's just, I guess maybe me planning too far in advance, it's maybe that meant that I wasn't playing reactionary enough on the weeks that I should have, with Delhi out and stuff like that, and as I said, maybe just thinking too much about the positive scenarios, everything going right, rather than what happens if something goes wrong. Maybe I should have a bit more of a backup plan, but just talking about the Brisbane boys real quickly, I kind of went over them, didn't really go over them, but McDonald, just as I said, he was useless. Bannon didn't really get much score done either. The rest of them were pretty garbage, and Sobey ends up with a 17 in a situation where he had full license to shoot. He was shooting a lot of balls and he could not make shots, and it just wasn't very good. The only good news to take from this is that Sobey, he's going to shoot the ball no matter what, and he's going to shoot it a lot, and on the games that he's on, he is going to be insane. And even on the games he's not on, his floor's very high just because of how much he gets the ball, how much he's allowed to shoot the ball, how much he has free reign over the team. So that's at least a positive there for Sobey. And then jumping down to Sydney, Taz, I'll be honest, I was already so tilted off the New Zealand game at this point that I didn't really even watch this game. It didn't really matter too much. I mean, Jalen Adams ends up going mental, so anyone that picked him up for the double last week and then maybe benched him this week, or even just kept him on the single this week, just so rewarded. And Doyle, just average, whatever. Crawford ends up being amazing here. As I said, I didn't really watch much of this. I watched a quarter or third quarter, a little bit of the fourth sort of thing. But Crawford obviously ends up with a massive Supercoach score as well, and anyone that was also on Crawford, just a massive advantage there, 38k. I mean, that's a very small minority. I think the biggest problem that I sort of talk about here is, as I mentioned, PJC was brought in by 53% of the top 5% and 52% of the top 1%. So I just punished by 50% of the comp, and the only positive there was only 50% of those. I think 55% of those had him actually on field, and the other 55 had him on bench. But as I just mentioned, for trades this week, it just sets you up so well. But I guess we'll just jump into trades here. It just doesn't feel good here, but we have to use our boost. We always planned on using a boost here. My original plan was Creek, Cummings out of the team, and then I'd make a decision here on Galloway or Sarr, or I'd go Olbridge and then move Sarr down. But because of the way Galloway's injured, you'd think Galloway has to go. And the problem is with McDonald's break even, as much as he's playing, with Bannon back in the team, he's going to lose so much money that he feels like he has to go right now. At least if we keep a Creek or a Cummings on the bench, it's likely they're going to get a moderate score. They're probably going to outscore McDonald's in a single. And are they going to lose much money? I mean, what are their break-evens even at? 32, so Cummings might not lose too much, and Creek probably loses a lot, so Creek is someone, I guess, that has to go a little bit more as well. I mean, if we bench one of them, at least we get them back for the double the following week, so it's not the end of the world there. But as I mentioned, things just not falling the way we want. As I said, if we had already PJC here, we could worry about just these 3 things here. We could easily go Creek, we could easily go McDonald, we could go Galloway, and then that's a lot of stress off my shoulders, honestly. We could even go Henshaw if we want and bring him in for Armstrong if Armstrong's playing. He's obviously in a moon boot, so we're not too sure there. And that would honestly just be a lot better for the team overall if we get somebody else playing on the field. And it's just so painful being this a little bit behind the 8 ball. And there's still plenty of season left. We're only 4 weeks into the season, and we're still sitting top 100. And it's the first week things have really gone wrong for me. I mean, there's a lot more things that have gone wrong for a lot more players, but just before I go for the trades, what I just want to show here, I guess the biggest thing here is the money difference. Wow, people went up by 500k this week. That's nuts. But we can see here, rank 1, 2.5 million, rank 2, 2.5 million, rank 4, 2.5 million, 2.4, 2.4, 2.4, a few people on 2.3, but then 2.4, they all have so much team value. This extra basically 300k they have over me because I'm at 2.270-ish. It just means 300k that instead of them having a Henshaw on the bench, they're going to be able to have literally a premium. Like, they can literally have a Crawford. They can literally have a PJC. Like, that's literally the difference of the 300k or the 250k, if you want to call it that. Like, that's just nuts. That's going to be so big in moving forward, and it's going to be so hard to catch them now that I've fallen behind in the money, and as I mentioned, behind in a trade as well, because they're going to be ahead in the trades getting people in this week. Now that I have to focus on PJC, it means that we can't get in someone like Cheatham additionally on the trades I want to do. But yeah, as I said, we'll just jump into the trades here. I personally need to keep Cummings just because of the way the structure is that I want, which is kind of better for the break even. I mean, Cummings did come back on after the half and then I think got really iced because of them winning by so much. McDonald's needs to go because of their money, and Galloway needs to go too because he's made his money as well. Come on, there we go. It is just awkward too because once again, Henshaw is just sitting on the bench. Good chance he does not play again in the following weeks. I mean, the only pray is that they keep getting belted, but they get belted a bit more harder earlier, and Henshaw can get on for some court time and actually do some things with that court time. But yeah, total points looking nuts. Once again, average is always best to look at for this sort of stuff. As you can see, PJC, insane, 43.7. Oh my goodness. Has to be in now. And just so painful. Clintman also has an insane break even as well. I think it's minus 15 on the double as well. So yeah, he's going to gain so much money. If he gets 46 points, it gives up 60k. That is insane. So obviously we're bringing Clintman. We're not silly. And what I do recommend for people is I'm probably just clicking on New Zealand and Cairns when I'm looking at players here, who we want. And to be fair, outside of PJC, the only other guard you're looking at is really Miller, in my opinion. But then we're going to jump into this and look at forwards because that's where we're looking. And we always planned on bringing in Wardenberg because the plan with Wardenberg was the following week after this double. Hook Porty and Travers no longer have the double. They both get traded. Wardenberg slips down to the center role for us, which is going to be very nice. And then we can bring people into the forward line. But now with Cheatham going off, we sit here and we go, damn, we really have to weigh this up. Like, they both have very similar break-evens. 26 on Cheatham, 22 on Wardenberg. So at the end of the day, money growth comes down to really their performance this week. Whoever performs better is going to really earn more money, and then it's just either a money positive or negative because we follow up with the player the following week that I didn't get this week. That's one way we could be looking at it. The biggest thing I think to look at is actually their opponents here because I think it's pretty hard to tell, but Wardenberg also has good history here where, look, he's got Illawarra and Sydney, which, I mean, Illawarra suck, so you'd think that's hopefully good. There's a random 7 there, but we're going to ignore it. But he's had the 23 previously and 25, 24, and 30, so his history against these teams aren't bad. Sydney aren't too much of a restrictive team this year, I feel, and Illawarra just honestly aren't good, and they give up a lot of points. So I feel like this is a pretty light matchup, at least that way. So that's why I personally want Wardenberg. So I'm just going to put him in there for now. But even if we were just to look at like PJC's lineup, because that will show us. Obviously, Cheatham has never played because he's an import, so he hasn't played these teams before, but he's up against Adelaide and South Melbourne. So he's also not the worst matchup either. I think just looking at it, though, Adelaide, yes, they give up a lot of points in the paint. It is true. But Adelaide, I mean, they beat Perth at the end of the day, and South Melbourne have been showing some stuff. They have been blowing out some teams. So I am wondering here at the end of the day, Adelaide maybe are going to be a harder matchup than Illawarra is what I'm thinking, and South Melbourne I think maybe could be as hard as Sydney. So in that retrospect, since Cairns have the Illawarra matchup, they win as the slightly easier matchup in my eyes. Now you can see how this works out money-wise for me because I had 65k when I roughly started this, and as I mentioned in my video last week, that even if I don't get on PJC, it's not going to ruin my trades for next week. And that's true, it's not ruining my plans. I always planned on bringing these guys in, and that's exactly what I'm doing here. But the problem, as I mentioned, is purely just the fact that I had to move Galloway when I wanted to keep Galloway, meaning that Cummings stays in the team when I wanted to be moving Cummings potentially instead of Galloway, using some DPP to throw Travers down. And I mean, it doesn't really change too much in what my plans were at the end of the day there, so it's not too bad. But I think the biggest problem here is, as I said, if PJC's in this team already, then we could, I guess, technically move Travers down, and we could bring in somebody else for 360 plus K in the forward line. So then we could have Cheatham as well. So we could have ended up with, Warrenberg, Klintman, and Cheatham in their forward line. Which, as I said, hindsight's 2020. And for those that are looking at this is really a toss of the coin, 50-50. Go with whichever one you prefer. I mean, obviously we saw Cheatham, so that's great. He wasn't anything special when they were over in America. Honestly, the only thing to take out of the America trip, if anyone watched those games, the only thing to take out of them, I wouldn't take anything out of Cairns, except for Miller was everything. He was literally everything for them. New Zealand obviously didn't see the Portland game, but I saw the Utah game, and PJC was everything. Lamb was actually pretty good in that too. So we knew PJC was going to be good this week, but as I said, I thought because of him flying back and stuff, he wasn't going to be good this week. I thought he'd be better coming in. So yeah, that's the trades I'm going to do here. I honestly don't really see this change, but as I said, maybe I need to be a bit more available to if things do switch up unexpectedly. Maybe somebody's named out injured or sick or blah, 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 and that players just end up being must-haves. Also, this seems to be lagging a little bit, but I'm going to be putting PJC obviously on field. We're going to be throwing the captaincy on him as well. Warrenberg is going to jump on the field over Klintman, which technically Klintman has a better average, so I don't even know if that's actually correct here. Could Klintman be better? I mean, they're against Illawarra as well. I guess that's the real 50-50 there. Do I run Warrenberg or Klintman on field? Not too sure. Klintman definitely has a lower floor in my... Oh, actually, Warrenberg has a pretty low floor too when things go wrong. But Illawarra, they could run over that game, and then the next star could get a lot more time or points in that retrospect. But either way, as we can see, we have 5 double ups on field, which was always my plan for this week, and then we have the single double up on the bench, and that's how this team always planned on playing out. Next week, technically, Cummings will be coming to a double as well as the New Zealand players, and technically Brisbane as well, so I don't know if anything changes there. Maybe Cummings just ends up sitting on the bench for his double, earning us good points as a premium on the bench. As I mentioned, others probably have a premium on the bench that's much more expensive, saying that we would love to get Williams in, but where are we getting the money for Williams next week? I mean, that just looks so hard to potentially do. I mean, Travers could maybe go to Bannon next week. That could allow Porty to go to Williams. I mean, that's maybe the strat there, and then we want like Warrenberg and Klintman as our top dogs up there. As I said, we'll figure that out next week, but I guess there's at least some pre-planning there to a degree. I think, obviously, captain choices, I mean, choose whoever you really want. God, there's so many doubles this week. There's great people to go for. I always wanted to be... Sorry, I'm looking at the round 6 for this. Didn't want to look at round 6. Round 5. Captain choices, I mean... PJC, guys. Honestly, like, it should be as simple as that. If you still have Tasmanian players, feel free to put Doyle on the captaincy. I mean, Sobey's always a shout for a captaincy, but I mean, it's hard. Like, it's impossible to look past PJC. He should be 100% owned from the community playing this week, and everyone should have the C on him, in my opinion. I mean, look at that ceiling. It's insane. I think even his floor's really high, so, I mean, there's really no discussion there. I don't know why I'm rambling on about it. Clearly, PJC is captain choice. And that's just really the team at the end of the day, guys. Like, not much else to talk there. If you have your questions, throw them down below. Obviously, I try and get to all the questions that are left. And I do appreciate everyone that's been leaving those comments down there, because it's just really nice to have that conversation and talk to people about it. But yeah, this is the team going in. I'm not feeling as confident as I was anymore about it, which, look, maybe I'm going to feel a bit better next week. But it does feel like this team is maybe a step behind the rest, which is a little bit painful moving forward. But as I said, we'll figure it out and we'll get going how we go. As I said, on a technical basis, as long as this 75k doesn't come back to bite me along the way, then there's not really too much of a problem. I think it definitely will. And as I mentioned, technically being one trade behind in a situation where we didn't even get a points gain feels very painful as well. But yeah, sorry, gonna stop rambling about it, gonna wrap it up here, guys. Thanks for tuning in once again. Thanks for staying to the end of the videos. For those that do, I always appreciate that. Tell me how your week went, tell me your plans, and I will put out my X later in the week to, I guess, confirm these very obvious trades that I do not plan on straying from. So anyway, till then, guys, peace, later.